Right. Hi, guys, and welcome to episode 3 of the LKB podcast. I am super excited today to have Suzanne Davison here, who I met a couple of years ago at one of my LKB monthly mingles that I used to hold. And Suzanne is a relationship and family therapist coach. And honestly, I've never had therapy in my life, but just after meeting her, for a very short amount of time a couple of years ago, I just thought, oh my God, you are so in the right job because I just get those good feels when I'm with you. So I'm bringing her on today and we are going to be talking all kinds of things. We've literally sat here just before going live, chat, trying to discuss what we're going to be going over. And there's just so much to cover. So we're going to see what we can get done today. And I'm really excited for you guys to listen. So, Suzanne, do you want to just introduce yourself in a way that's better than I just said?
Okay, so yes, thank you for having me on today.
No worries.
So I guess the best way to introduce me is I've run a therapy and coaching business the last 13 years. I never knew about the world of mental health until I learned about the world of mental health and realised most people around me have struggled with mental health.
Mhm.
I specialised in teenagers when I qualified. I wanted to get the youngsters so that they didn't carry the baggage around life, which I realised that I'd been doing. And there's a big difference between confidence and self-esteem. And I never realised having low self-esteem can impact your life, where I always thought I was confident.
Mhm.
And it was only when I started to realise that my own teenage years, I lacked self-esteem and made up for it with confidence. So I want to be able to go back and give these kids a chance to actually have an easier life where they can hit their potential.
Mhm.
So I specialised in teenagers, and I realised it wasn't the kids that were the problem; it was the parents, because it's probably the parents that mess the kids up. So started to work with mums and dads, and then started to do more relationships. That then became family. Then it kind of escalated into a lot of them were business owners. So
Mhm.
I then went into the world of business. And then I went into the world of managing staff, because obviously learning how to look after your staff is just the same as looking after your kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the business grew really quickly,
Wow.
and I was in it before the mental health became such a massive thing for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of experience with all different relationships, but my true passion is getting the home life right,
Yeah.
which is a bit ironic, bearing in mind I went through a divorce 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is all from do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. And from your own experience, by the sounds
Absolutely.
of it.
And I think that's the beauty of anybody that works in the field of trying to help somebody, that if
Mhm.
you can just be authentic
Yeah.
and not try and make out you've got this perfect life,
Yeah.
that it makes it more relatable. And I think that's where I've done quite well, is I'm very honest
Yeah.
about my own screw ups
Yeah.
and want to prevent people from getting there. And
Yeah.
that's been as a mum, as a wife, even as a business owner. We all screw up at business as
Yeah.
well. But my big passion is kind of getting home right,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, because that's fundamentally where we all go to get what we should have, which is love.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be lacking drastically in some
Mm,
households,
yeah.
just through stress, work
Mm,
stress, children stress, etc. So there's always so much going on behind closed doors, as they say.
absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit and touch on when you came and did a session with my ladies
Yep.
who were all business owners.
Yep.
You came along and did a session with us, and we spoke about profiles and kind of personalities, and I loved it. So I was a diamond.
Yeah. Me too.
You
Snap.
remember, yeah, and you remembered that because I was like, what shape was I again? And you even remembered what shape my husband is, and
Yep.
he is a
Square.
square. So talk to us a bit about that because I loved that session.
So, really quickly, in a nutshell, I realized that reasons why relationships weren't working is, and that sounds obvious, but it's because we're so different.
Hmm.
And when we're different and it's irritating, we try and change the person. So we become a nag. Don't do this, don't do that. You talk to me the wrong way. You don't listen to me. You're too quick, you're too slow. So I started to realize that there's this kind of like natural incompatibility that can cause a lot of problems. I also understood from having both children diagnosed with ADHD and one on the autistic spectrum about how we process. So I had to kind of go like a bit behind the scenes of just what experiences do we have that can create our personality, to
Yeah.
actually understand how do we take in information, how do we process this world. So I started to understand that there are four key brains, even though I think technically there's two, but if we put it into four, and we all have different drivers. And when you start to understand what we actually need. And I said, we all have special needs. You know, people talk about that as in you're on the spectrum, but all of us do. Because
Yeah.
if you have a need that's being met, you'll feel amazing.
Yeah.
If you have a need and it's not being met, you're going to feel crappy. But we don't know what they are. So when I started to be able to apply learning about how we process information, things that we find difficult simply because of how our brains work, it gave a whole different spin on relationships for me, because you can't change your brain.
No.
So yes, I can change parts about me, but the way that my brain will take in information is just my brain. So I have to learn to love it,
Yeah.
and I have to learn to work with it. So it kind of gets split into, there's an overthinky brain and there's an impulsive brain. You can't be 100% of any one profile because of how we're made up.
Yeah.
Experiences, what you learn. So you're going to be a higher percentage, but you'll probably be little bits of everything. So the overthinky brain, the first profile is our hearts, and they are very driven by pleasing everybody. So they don't like confrontation. They won't necessarily speak up about how they feel. They're very warm, kind, caring, will be the compassionate ones that want to look after everybody. But their biggest fear is upsetting somebody.
Yeah.
So for them, their challenges are they end up exhausted because they give so much. And then if those people aren't happy, then it's like, wow, I'm really tired because I've got nothing left to give.
Yeah.
So we have, but they're lovely, lovely. Everyone loves a heart because they basically do what we want them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. They need a lot of reassurance and validation that people are happy with them. Then we have the squares. The squares, too, are overthinkers. And when I say overthinking, their brain just takes time to process everything. So if they're making a decision, they'll take time.
Yeah.
So they'll do the research, they'll check TripAdvisor, they'll check to see if, you know, if they can get it cheaper. And by the time they've actually made the decision, it's kind of like takes them quite a long time. And that's because the heart's worried about upsetting somebody and making the wrong one. The square's driven by wanting to get everything right.
Yeah. That is so Mark, like you
So
said. That was
these,
Mark.
yeah, so these guys, they like a process, a procedure, they're stable, they're organised, they don't like change, they like to know what's coming. They're probably, out of all four of them, the most anxious of the profiles. And the reason for that is life isn't predictable. Life changes, life goes quicker.
Yeah.
So they naturally find it quite challenging, and they might get more overwhelmed. So, and they are very driven. So these guys are a little bit black and white. And if they think they're right, you're not going to budge them. And their fear is getting things wrong. So they can be a bit perfectionist,
Right.
and they can put a lot of pressure on themselves. So when I look at kids, for example, these ones will be the more anxiety ones in school, because they're so scared of getting anything wrong, you know, scared about being asked to put their hand up because they might get it wrong. So it's quite hard for those guys. Life's just genuinely a little bit more stressful for them.
Yeah.
So they're my two overthinkers. My impulsive, so these guys are quick. They make quick decisions. Their brain processes quickly. And sometimes what happens is they'll do something and they might regret doing it. Whereas the other guys might take so long thinking about it, they just won't do it.
Yeah.
So my diamonds, you have two sitting opposite each other right now. So I don't know how long this episode's going to go on for. Could be 3 days. Never run out of things to talk about. So these guys are fun. They're chatty, sociable, life and soul of a party, last man standing, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And they are, again, they're people pleasers in a way. They like everyone to be having a good time, because selfishly, they have to be around positivity.
Yeah.
So if something's negative for them, they naturally want to change it into a positive, because negativity drains the life out of them. And it's simply because they thrive. They really thrive. They don't like moany and groany. They'll always find the positive in everything. They're glass half full. And they want to help people feel good about themselves. There's a natural drive in wanting people to have a good time.
Yeah.
Things they might struggle with is they can start 100 things all at once and not complete anything. They can get distracted. They can be a little bit disorganized. They can be a bit forgetful. And they need stimulating. They need mental stimulating. If they're bored, it's a really tough place for them to be, because their brain likes to be kept active all times. So they're the diamonds. So these are going to be, they're the sociable ones. The circles, these are the very driven characters. So very ambitious, can be driven by results. So money, If it could be academic, if they were at school, sports people, they want to win. They don't care if they upset you, if they beat you. That's all that
Yeah.
matters. Um, and when sometimes they can be a little bit lacking in empathy. They're very direct, black and white, say it as it is, brilliant problem solvers, and they will tell you what to do. And they won't listen to what you're saying. They will just tell you what to do.
How funny.
So they're not good listeners. And simply that's because they think that their way is the right way. So why
Yeah.
would they bother listening to another opinion when they know they're right?
Yeah.
So sometimes they can kind of get a bit of a raw deal, and people can throw words around like narcissistic, controlling, and it's not what they mean to be. It's simply because their brain goes,
Right.
but yeah, but I know what the right solution is.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, they probably are right. They're just not very empathetic. They get frustrated with people that moan and groan and don't do anything. It's like, come on, move it. Let's
Yeah.
take out. They're very action. So again, these tend to be we obviously work with business owners, entrepreneurs. They tend to be that more circle profile. If they are driven and successful, the things that they fall over at are relationships, because they can value their results more than love.
Right. Okay.
So what happens is, the circle will be work, 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 and somebody will turn and say, "Yeah, but what, me and the kids?" And it's like, yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm going back to work because I want that result. So very often that's where the clashes will come. They're not great at communicating. They can get quite stressy, and sometimes get a bit angry.
Right.
That's kind of like they will say it as it is
Yeah.
because they lack a little bit of empathy. So they're not getting a raw deal, but these guys are leaders. And like I said, they're quite used to being more dominant. If they're around, if you like, the heart profile, they can control the heart profile because the heart profile will go, "Oh, I'll keep you happy."
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, lovely."
Yeah.
So you tend to find in relationships that the circles and the hearts attract,
Right.
and the diamonds and the squares attract,
Okay.
because you go opposites attract.
Yeah.
So it's like they have what the other one doesn't. So this, like for you and your hubby, you've got all of this sociability. You're very positive. You're very upbeat, and he's probably a little bit more stable, a bit more sensible. So he'll love that in you.
Yeah.
And you'll love the fact that he's a bit more stable and it
Yeah.
probably keeps you a bit grounded.
Yeah.
I always say you're the helium balloons and he's the weight holding you down.
Yeah.
So it does work. Yeah.
Yes.
So the opposites do work. Like how we was saying earlier, but over a period of time, if we're not careful, we're trying to change the other person. What attracted us in the beginning sometimes can be the thing that annoys us in the end.
Yeah.
Because really the world would be very easy if we was all like ourselves. We'd get the other person, we'd know how to talk to them, we'd know what they needed. But we don't. So we sort of see the world through our own eyes. So I come up with a different profiling based in shapes, as in where do we fit in? And a big, like, your home's a shape sorter. We need to make adjustments so that we can all live there.
Yeah.
If not, someone's going to leave. Yeah. And it's just worked brilliantly to get people to go, "Oh, okay, I get it. You're not being a bit of an arse.
Yeah.
It's because of the fact, oh, you're a circle, you're a diamond, you're a square, and all of a sudden it just takes out I'm taking this personal.
Yeah.
And I'm actually seeing you going, okay, I accept you. So my big, if you like, my mission is to go, if we can all just love and accept each other for who they are, not having to change them, not having to pretend, not having to mask, not trying to fit in a place where we can't just be ourselves, then that to me will just make the world a much better place.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my little mission behind it, is just saying, let's work out who we are.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend that we're somebody that we're not, because that's exhausting.
Yeah.
And that really showed to me after COVID, because the squares, if you like, they're not the most sociable characters. They like their own time. They need time away. People can drain them.
Right.
Diamonds, we like to be around people because we bounce off that kind of energy. So in COVID, where suddenly it was okay to not be sociable. I said, it's like everyone took these masks off, like uncomfortable bras, when you can kind of finally just ping it off. And it's like everyone could breathe and just be, oh my God, I don't have to talk to all these friends. I don't have to maintain these relationships. I don't have to see my family. So everybody was allowed to be unsociable, and that was acceptable.
Yeah.
And definitely the hearts and squares really liked it, because they didn't have to try and fit in or mask up if they were in a social situation. But coming out of COVID, this is where everything's fallen over, is because people don't want to put those masks back on.
No.
Hence, we've got hybrid working now. People don't want to go into the office.
No.
You know, there's no Christmas parties. So for us diamonds, it's like, what? No party?
I know.
And the squares are like, thank God for that.
Yeah.
I haven't got to speak to all those people that I don't like talking to. And the same is in the education. Kids now don't want to go to school and be surrounded by a lot of people. So there's more kids out of education, being homeschooled, alternative provisions than we've ever had. And it's a massive issue. The business world made adaptations really quickly and said, okay, those that want to work from home, those that are in the office, and there's a blend. The education system hasn't done it.
No.
So the kids now, the ones that are actually struggling
Yeah.
to, if you like, in fact, depending on when COVID was, they would have lacked certain social skills anyhow. So we have got, unfortunately, a generation of kids now that don't really know how to interact, how to be social.
Yeah,
And
so
it's like we've
sad.
lost a skill. We've really
So
lost a skill.
sad.
Because even if you weren't naturally social, and I'm going old school because I'm much older than you, you know, you had to go and pick up a phone, you know,
Yeah.
even a phone box with your 10p. I had to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
So I had to be social, even if I didn't want to be. You don't have to do that no more.
No.
So we've really, really lost the art of how to talk to each other.
Yeah, and it's such a shame. I mean, obviously, technology hasn't helped with it either, because
true.
that's coming on at great speed, and kids are just heads in phones and iPads and stuff. So that, along with COVID, you know, and we're all guilty of it, and then it does make you a bit antisocial. I think that does have a huge effect on the anxiety that people are suffering as well. Do you?
Massively. And I think the thing that we forget is when we're a pack, I say when we're in a community, we're strong, right? So as humans, we're meant to be in families, we're meant to be in community, we're meant to have love and connection, and that's where, as like I said, as a race, we work really, really well. What COVID has done and technology, you're spot on, has actually made us really disconnected, and we're very, like I said, on our own.
Yeah.
And when you feel like you're on your own, that's where anxiety is.
Yeah.
Because anyone that has anxiety that's listening to this, if we stripped it all back, there's a fear of being on their own
Yeah.
and not knowing how to deal with it. So we've literally heightened so many fears with technology, COVID, that anxiety now, sadly, is off the Richter scale for people.
Yeah.
And people don't necessarily know how to, if you like, this is what I'd love to do, and I know this is what you'd be passionate about, is bringing people back together again,
Yeah.
because that's where our strength is. I know you've got a
Absolutely.
huge community
Yeah.
of people, and that's what I feel we need is support, because again, families are very disconnected. You know, you've got teenagers, I've got kids, and you can find that everybody's just in their rooms and nobody's actually talking anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it never used to be that way. And that's another thing with families. It's like, how do you keep connected? How do you not lose your teenager to the bedroom?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a bit like what we touched on before we went live about kind of relationships as well, which I think is important, especially as I've just turned 40, like I was going to say this year, but last year. And I'm hitting that midlife stage.
Yeah.
You know, I like to think I've got things in hand in terms of my health and my fitness. And,
Yep.
you know, I'm lifting my weights, I'm taking my supplements, doing all that kind of stuff. I feel like I've got a very healthy relationship with my husband.
Yeah.
You know, he supports me, I support him. We're very much a team when it comes to parenting.
Nice.
It's great. We communicate all the time. If he's pissed me off, I'll tell him. If I've pissed him off, he'll tell me.
Nice.
So that's all well and good. But I do feel like as I'm going to go into my 40s, and through what you just see, maybe I see it on social media, but us women are hitting midlife, and our relationships or our marriages, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever it may be, I feel becomes strained.
Yeah.
I think more so those that have got children, because I
Yeah.
do think it's really very stressful. And, you know, back in the day when we didn't have kids, like Mark and I always joke about like we'll go have date nights or whatever, and we like got to keep it fresh, you know, be like, come and give me a kiss, make it last 6 seconds, we've got to keep it fresh, like just jokingly. And but I think that's so important.
Massive.
And so does Mark. So we have that and we have a laugh with it. But I can, you know, I see it happening, and I think it's such a shame that people do lose themselves in their relationships, don't they?
Huge. And I think the thing is, like I said, when you start off being a parent, you have no idea what that journey's like. But like old school, probably how our parents were with us, it's pretty much kids sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Get yourself to school. You know, if you do well in your exams, you don't, whatever, go and get yourself a job, and we've fed and watered you. The pressure and especially on new mums. This is why I can't. Instagram drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Because everyone's portraying these stories. They've got their shit together. No mum's got their shit together, especially not in the early days. But the pressure of being a perfect mum, and I also think people are understanding now. It sounds awful, but how parenting can mess your kids up in the future. I think we have this awareness. So there's more pressure on parents to go, God, I can't even screw my kids up now. At least they was allowed to screw their kids up and not worry about it. So there's so much pressure and no one really knows what they're doing. Because if you had a good childhood and you're just going, I'm just going to repeat what my mum and dad did, brilliant. Not many people can do that, especially not from both partners.
No.
So we're really boxing blind a lot with parenting. So you kind of go into this like relationship as mum and dad, not knowing what you're doing. And very often some of your own past can be triggered, which can make, again, it's a more complicated journey. It's always easier being on your own without children, you're right. But then you kind of build into this family and you've got the kids. You lose sight of, like you said, having a snog for 6 seconds. That goes out the window, which is fundamental. So well done, you guys. Well done, Mark. Keep the snogs up. And mums then get the pressure on. It's like, I've got to be a kid. I've got to be a mum, and then the husband's going, well, what about me? And she's like, I haven't got time for you because I'm doing this. So I've got to be a perfect parent. So he goes back out to work, earning the money. And then you have this void between mum and dad because mum's looking after the kids, he's providing. But what about mum and dad, as in just husband and wife? So you're right. I think we get to this stage and very often we can be exhausted, battered. We've given so much. And because we didn't have the same vision or dream of what we thought we were working towards, we've ended up on separate pages. And sometimes we hit this place, it goes, I don't even know me anymore. And I think that it was wrapped up in menopause. So I do a lot of work with women in menopause. I'm sure you do too. It's just the kind of age we're in.
Yeah.
And they'll all say to me, oh, I don't know who I am anymore because of the menopause. I say, it's not. It's just that we've got to a stage where we're not the new mum. We're not the teenage mum. We're the mums with kids don't need us. And, we might have had a career. We might have given that up. We may have had hobbies that we used to love, but we've given those up. And, we do feel lost, but so do men. And last year, more than ever, I noticed a real an influx of men.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good thing that I'm busier now with men than I ever have been because it shows that the world is talking more.
Yeah.
But the men hit that stage when they've been trying to strive and climb their mountain to achieve something in their life, to kind of get to the top of the mountain and then kind of realise that there's nothing really there. Might be an unhappy marriage. There might be divorce. It might not have been the journey that they thought it was. And men go into this quite dark place of trying to fathom out who they are. So it happens at a similar stage. And for me, I always look at life as like a game of football of two halves. So the first half, you have no idea what you're doing. And it probably gets to about between your 40 to 50. And you're going, okay, so we've won that bit and we've just kind of made it through. And then I think you get this really beautiful opportunity to kind of sit back and go, well, now it's my time. So I need to know me. Yeah. So I need to know what actually makes me happy. What do I really want from this life? And I think we can all just take a pause and a breather. I say it's like this train. I say to people, get off the train, sit on the platform, have a Costa, have a chill and just breathe and go, okay, whew, made it halfway through.
Yeah.
Second half, let's enjoy it more by really going, what do I want? And it's not being selfish. And so many people go, well, that's too selfish. And I'm like, it really isn't, because it means you won't burn out. It means, no one's going to care about your life as much as you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, even your
So
husband.
true.
You
So true.
But we feel like we can't care enough about our life because we have to care about everybody else.
Yeah.
But your life is the one that you're living. So it's up to you whether you want to have a good one or you want to have a stressful one or an unhappy one. So sometimes taking time out means you have to make big decisions. I know myself, I hit a burnout and I just thought, you know what? I don't want to be in this relationship anymore with my husband. After 24 years of marriage, I was
Wow.
with him for 30 years.
Wow.
And that was a lot of fallout of COVID as well. There's a lot of challenges for relationships. But I just felt there was part of my life that I couldn't explore being stuck in that same dynamic.
Yeah.
So you have to sometimes make big decisions and you have to take a real leap of faith and you have to think of yourself.
Yeah.
And they're tough. Yeah, and I'm obviously not saying that's what everyone should do. Please don't all get divorced.
Everyone's
Unless you're a
leaving their
solicitor.
husbands.
I'll take commission off all solicitors. So the point of it is, it's like you don't have to separate. You just need to realign.
Yeah.
You and your hubby are really good at staying in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So what I love it is when you get this stage and it's like, okay, so let's do marriage take 2.
Yeah.
Marriage take 1 was, okay, let's somehow get through having children, which is tough. Now what we can do is think, what does it look like for us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as a couple. It's still even individual, what you both want to achieve, what goals you want to set yourself. But we don't take that time out to realign with that person. We either just settle
Yeah.
and we just moan about it to our girlfriends or down the pub to our mates, rather than actually going, well, let's work on that. And this is where I think people get therapy and coaching wrong. You don't have to come and see somebody like me because you're depressed or, you know, you're really struggling. Sometimes you come and see someone like me because you just want it a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's just working on it.
Well, I was only saying, I was on my stories earlier talking about doing this chat, and I genuinely do think even I would happily sit and have couple therapy with Mark, and I feel like we've got it pretty good. But there are things still that I would be able to sit there and talk about, or he would talk about, like I would have views on something he does, and it doesn't mean that I dislike him for it, but I definitely think sometimes you just want to hear someone's opinion of experience, like yourself, and just think, oh, okay, yeah, I'll try it that way. It's a bit like when you just talk about the 4 different profiles of people, it's such a an opening in your mind to think, oh, okay, yeah, that is why we may be totally different. And I think everyone could do a therapy. Obviously, therapy costs money, but I generally do. So it's great to get you on the podcast. Think that everyone could sit and talk about things that are slightly wrong, even if they think it's brilliant.
Me too. And I think, honestly, I say to anybody, that's the most sensible thing. A divorce is really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say about, you know, whether you use word therapy or coaching, it doesn't really matter, but it's really expensive, divorce. And it's not just the money that you lose that thought that you're going to have a happy family. You lose that dream that you had.
Yeah.
So for me, it's, you know, investing up front to prevent is worth every penny, because if you don't, the actual fallout is way more expensive.
Yeah.
And that's where people get it wrong. It's like it's an investment. Like how people invest in their health. If they come and work 100%. With you, they're investing in their health because they want to prevent as much as they can having ill health. But they don't do it in their relationships. We just somehow expect that it's going to be okay. And then we wake up one day and we realise, oh crap, I wish I'd done that earlier. You know, a bit like when someone's suddenly 3 stone heavier, it's like, oh damn, I wish I'd done something and I was just like half a stone heavier. So I mean, I always say, if I was Prime Minister, I'd make everybody come and have a check-in once a month with a coach, a bit of space for your relationship, for you, and then we wouldn't have such a bad world of mental health. But of course, that's not going to happen because there's all other scenes. You know, pharmaceutical companies wouldn't make much money out of it if that was the case. But I do really, and even for families, you know, I think for kids to have a safe space. You know, I love working with teenagers. And I love working with teenagers because they're so easy, because they're not well ingrained in anything. So to get them to flip a mindset's really easy, whereas adults, we resist it more. So in my ideal world, I would literally, my plan is that I get this into education, so kids learn it at school. That's what I'm planning to do, so that kids can really understand who they are, who their mates are, and we just accept each other. And then we don't take it so personally. We're not sitting there going, oh, why would they say that? Why would he do that? I can't believe he's done that. Because then you're going to go, oh, no, I understand it.
And absolutely.
That's okay.
I remember you talking about a scenario when we did the thing a couple of years ago of, you know, talking about these profiles and our teenage children and, you know, the fact if everything all blows up at home and then they're reacting, or get someone a profile of a child that doesn't want to get out of bed for school. So my Linny, she's 13, no, she's 14, and I don't ever have to get her out of bed. Her alarm goes off, she gets up, she's sitting there getting ready. I mean, I think there's an element of the hair and makeup's all got to be done for school these days, but she gets up. I don't have to drag her out of bed at all. That might come, but it hasn't yet, so I'm winning. But you were saying about it can be to do with their profiles as 100%. To how they are just behaving in the way they do.
So your daughter, she's probably, would you say she's more like you or Mark?
I I think she's a real mixture, actually. I think Mark and I are definitely a mixture. I think Mark's a mixture of both, and I'm more diamond.
Yeah.
And then I'd say Linny's probably a mixture of both.
So the square in her
Yeah.
will always want to do the right thing.
Right.
She'll like her structure, her routine in the morning, and she won't want you to stop that. So she's if you like a good girl, she'll do it right. And because she'll want to look right, she'll want to feel right when she leaves the house, no problem. She'll get herself up and she'll do it. My eldest was like that. And what you don't want to do is ever break her routine.
Right.
So what I used to do is I'd always be running really late and saying, "Oh, don't worry about that. Don't put your makeup on. Do it in the car." And she'd be like, "No, I have to do it in my certain step by step." But so certain kids are going to be, like I said, driven by certain things. If you have a child that is distracted, can't be bothered to get up in the morning, kind of ends up getting, scrolling on TikTok for half an hour and you're screaming at them, and it's because whatever they're doing is more interesting than what you're asking them to do.
Yeah.
So for that, I'll always say you can kind of make it a little bit more fun. You can put a bit of pressure on them saying, right, you've got, 10 minutes to do this, and this. Because diamonds, for example, we work really well under pressure.
Yeah.
We
I
love a
work great under
deadline.
pressure.
Yeah. Because we'll find our last minute.
Yeah.
So there's no point, I always say, there's no point as a diamond saying, okay, I'm going to plan for that a month ahead. You just have to go, where's my last minute? And I'll put it out and it'll be amazing.
That is so me. So me. Yeah, I'll get it done. It'll be done. It will be amazing.
Yeah.
But I just,
it'll just be on my, and the reason for that is you just need that shot of adrenaline to get going. Once you get going, you go hyper focused and it's all great. So for children like that, allowing them to have their phone and scrolling on TikTok is just a disaster. What you want them to do is say, right, that's your reward. Get yourself ready. And then whatever time you have left, you have your phone.
100%. Yeah.
So there's, like I said, there's different ways, understanding their motivation, and for me, it's helping them learn about their brain. Because what can happen, and I was definitely guilty of this without realising, is I was chasing them, come on, let's go, putting pressure on them so they'd get there. But when I wasn't there, they didn't know how to do it themselves. So like time management. So really we want to be able to teach our kids this. Because when they go into grown-ups or they go to university or whatever comes next, you want them to be able to make sure they can get up, they can follow a routine.
100%.
So these are kind of like all the little tools that they need to learn, but where very often as parents we step in and just do it for them.
Yeah, we do. I definitely do that with Leo, blimey. It's my youngest one.
Because you've all got to get out the door, without literally killing each other. But when you think about it, so if I work with kids, I'm empowering them to go, look, this is how your brain is. I can't, if I work with people, I can't diagnose, oh, you've got ADHD, you've got autism, because I'm not qualified to do that. And this is everywhere at the moment. I feel like everyone's ADHD and autistic at the moment, which we probably are, in fairness, because there is just this world of spectrum. But it's all about identifying needs. So it doesn't really matter. Like I said, if your heart's square, diamond, circle, it doesn't matter. It's what do you need? What do you find challenging that other people might find easy? So you said your daughter might find it really easy to get up and do her routine. Your other son might find that really difficult. It doesn't mean that he's wrong and she's right. It just means he needs to learn how to do that. It doesn't come natural, but he'll be good at other things. So when you can kind of flag, what do the kids need? What do they need to learn? What do they find difficult? And then you can give them tools. Then life will become less stressful for them. But again, unless you know that as a mum and a dad.
And I think there's such a difference with my two at the moment because there's a 5-year age gap as well.
Right,
So I'm not really seeing what Leo's shining through as, apart from being moany and not wanting to get out of bed. Or he gets out of bed, but he's just, everything's a sulk, like all the time with everything.
So who's he more like?
I don't know. I can't work him out at the moment. I've always even wondered who he looks like. People say more me and my brothers, but I don't know. I just find him, he's quite difficult at the moment. And
so with that, and this is this is what can happen. This is what I did wrong as a mum. So like I said, remember, everything is do as I say, not as I do, because it didn't end well. But when you have a child that's not like you find them really frustrating. You're a very go-getty, upbeat, come on guys, whoop, whoop, let's go. And if he's a little bit sulky, it could really irritate you because he's not like you. And so my daughter was, one of my daughters was a bit more like that. So I'd be like, oh, hurry up, come on. I wanted to say, be more like me. And then what she used to say, and probably my ex-husband did as well, but I can't be like you because I'm like me.
Yeah.
So why don't you just accept me for who I am? Yeah. And I'm like, oh crap, not sure how to do that. Um, so with him, yeah, so he is difficult. You just have to go. He's only challenging because he just sees everything different to me.
Yeah.
And it's hard because we see the world through our own eyes.
Yeah.
To suddenly step out and see it through his eyes
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
difficult without help. And this is, like I said, this is why I want to, whether I actually do it, because it's one of the plans, is to actually have like a book that people can have. So if they're looking at how do I actually manage this scenario, once I know my profiles, there's kind of like a little guide that people can refer to, because it is so hard to remember that they're different to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, this kind of like little Bible that people can just keep looking back at, and hopefully means that they don't make somebody feel bad for who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point.
And that's what I unfortunately did to my daughter.
And do you find that, obviously, so if Mark and I say like a diamond and a square,
Yeah.
do you find typically the children are kind of, they'll be one or the other, or kind of a mixture?
So if you have two, so it tends to go, the eldest, I always say, gets the pick of the crop, and they'll go, right, who am I going to be more like, mum or dad? So a lot of it can be genetic in how we process. Some of it's basically on modelling. So the first 11 years of our life, we will model on one parent more than the other.
Okay.
So, and there's no rhyme nor reason to which one it will be. Sometimes it's because I want to keep that person happy, so I'll be more like them, so they're happy with me.
Yeah.
Other times it can just be that you spend more time with that parent. So yes, if normally it goes, the eldest one will be like one, the second one comes along, it's like the other. Then if you have a third, they're a bit more of a mixed bag.
Right. Okay.
Not always, but that's kind of how it tends to go.
Yeah.
But like you said, if Mark has square traits but some diamond traits, you might have brought the diamond out in him. You see, what I think, Laura, is everyone has a secret diamond inside of them, this kind of like fun, bit crazy, spontaneous, but sometimes we're not allowed to unleash it.
Yeah.
Because
see, Mark, when you said about the sociable side of a square, like not being so, Mark's so sociable.
Right.
Like he's as sociable as me.
Right. So
maybe sometimes even more.
Right.
Like, so that's what made me think he's still a touch
so
of.
is that because we can have a diamond mask? So our diamond mask is our social mask.
Right.
So we can put it on, like we put our makeup on. It's like, right, I'm going out, put my social mask on. I know what to do.
Yeah.
I know how to do this, but I get really tired, so I can't maintain it. It's like I can be social, but then I get tired from it. Whereas
That'd probably be me more than Mark, actually.
okay, yeah. So sometimes, but you probably do give a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
If I'm honest,
Yeah.
you do probably give quite a lot of energy in what you do and everything else. So we can either, like I said, put this social mask on that goes, once I'm home, like I said, like the uncomfortable bra. Oh, I'm going to say that. I can just be quiet and go and ignore everybody now. But again, we learn these skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's learned to be sociable as well. Or he's got diamond in him. So very often I did this training course where I was training practitioners in the profiling. And one girl turned up and she was very square and methodical, and she sat there, with all her pens in line. And there was this one girl who come in and she was all a bit crazy and, oh my God, here I am. And anyhow, when we went through this process and we stripped back the layers, like all the masks that people have had to put on to be what somebody else wants them to be or be accepted. And you saw this big transition. And the one that come in all crazy, she suddenly come in and she just went, I'm just going to be me. And she hardly spoke. She literally came in, she put glasses on, she had all her hair scraped back, where it was all, she had everything lined up. And then this other girl who was all very methodical came in, she was all kind of like hippified and creative.
Wow.
And because we'd allowed them to go, it's okay to be this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that freeing feeling when people have depression, or it's like, well, who am I?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting when you strip back the layers, like a pass the parcel, and you're going, right, who's the hidden gem in the middle? Who am I really meant to be in this world?
Yeah.
Not who I've become.
And I think, like, society is that you grow up, you get married, you have children. And I think we fall into that before we've even found ourselves with what we want to do. Like, I didn't know I was going to be doing online fitness.
No.
I didn't know I was even going to do. My dream was never to be a fitness instructor or a personal trainer ever. I wanted to earn money in London, which I did, and then I've fallen into this because it worked around being a mum. But now it's developing into so many different things, a bit like you.
Yeah.
So I think society makes us think that we've got to do that. So then we become the wife, the mum, and then we do lose ourselves.
Yeah.
So then it's like, I need to find myself again.
And it's really interesting because people often say to me, well, what is my purpose in life? What is it? And I said, you have to go back into your story sometimes. You have to go backwards to really kind of go, well, how can you make a difference in this world? Because really all of our purposes are to make a difference in some way, to help somebody. So everybody has a purpose. It's like you said, it's when we take that time out that goes, well, who am I now? Like obviously with all the experiences that I've gone through, and how can I help people?
Yeah.
How can I use what I've gone through? How can I use what I do to make a difference in this world?
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like when people want to really find their true identity, like you're in your true identity now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're doing what you love,
Yeah.
you're making a difference, you're making an impact, you're leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
You're teaching your kids about how to have a really good relationship with you and Mark, learning what love really means. So you're kind of true in your true identity.
Yeah.
But that takes work.
Yeah.
Like I said, that takes making brave decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
It means you put your head above the parapet and kind of go, I'm going to have a look out here and see what this world is like.
Yeah.
I don't stay safe and I don't settle.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always something else in line,
Yeah,
it's never kind of like whatever you think you're going to get to is then either something else comes up or you're just like, no, now I want to do that. There's always kind of something else to goad me on. And if I didn't have that, I've got some friends that don't work, and they don't have a job. They haven't gone with the career that they maybe wanted to just because of life. And I just think you're so right. You need to have a purpose.
Yeah.
And my purpose is to help women feel great, and especially even more so now. And, and doing it in all different kinds of ways. Fitness,
Absolutely.
exercise, podcast, it's great. So I do. And I've never really, you saying, oh, you've got that, you're right, actually. I am in where I want to be, which is a great feeling.
Yeah.
And that's where I want all other women to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think because when you get there and but you have to be brave and you have to take courage and you have to go, I don't know if it's going to work. But when you're in that kind of magic of uncertainty and just kind of like winging life a little bit, that's where, like I said, and I'm the same as you, I truly want women and men to be at this place. And I do a lot of work with women when they haven't stayed with a career. And this is my thing. I really want to go out and say to mums, your children are not your purpose. Yeah, you're kind of borrowing them for a little bit of the journey, and be a good mum and teach them well, and teach them what love is, teach them what kindness is, teach them, like I said, what marriage is. I love the fact that your kids might catch you and Mark having a cheeky snog.
Yeah.
I think that's really love, because that's what a marriage should be.
Yeah.
So be a good parent, but do not think that is your purpose.
Yeah.
Keep you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally
So don't lose your interests. Don't lose what makes you happy. If you want to dance. If you want to sing. Don't give anything up for thinking I can't because I'm a mum.
But also, I think there is a huge element of insecurities in people, not just women. I tend to talk more about women because obviously that's more my niche, but that they're too scared of what others think. And that, if we can touch on a little bit of friendships, because as I feel like when we're hitting this age of our kids are getting older, we've made this group of friends, and a lot of the time we make groups of friends through our children, and we do, like our social circles a lot now are to do with our kids are the same ages. This works great. Mummies and daddies can have a couple of drinks. Kids are playing nicely. And then, and then relationships can change as the kids grow up older. They find new friends. We're not all around each other's houses and each other's gardens doing the same thing anymore. And I think others can look on to other people's lives if theirs have been kind of put on hold. And I'm all about building women up and making them feel great, but there's a lot of ladies, sadly, that can act in the complete opposite way. When I see that happening, I kind of I feel sorry for them, because I'm like, something's not right in your life.
So when you think about it, I'll always say, if you look at somebody's success and you're not enjoying their success, if it makes you feel, oh, it's all right for them.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right for you.
they're
You
so
can do that.
lucky.
You're so lucky, because my husband wouldn't let me do that.
Yeah.
If we are, in some ways, would happily see them fall, and we're not really, like you said, enjoying their successes, it's because we're not where we want to be.
Yeah.
So sometimes when somebody sees somebody, and it could be anybody, I remember, because obviously it will resonate with you, I was in a gym once, And there was this stunning girl. I'm like, she's just absolutely stunning figure. And there was this woman who was slightly larger. And she was standing there. She's going, "Oh, it's all right for you. Look at you. You're looking amazing. You could kind of get away with that, not me." And she just sat there and she just went, "I don't eat carbs.
Mm.
I work out at least 5 times a week.
Mhm.
I do this, I do that, I do that. What do you do?"
Yeah.
And this woman just went, "Okay, fair enough."
Yeah.
But it's that bit that goes, if you want something enough, put the work in to get it.
Yeah, 100%.
And sometimes that comes from a lack of confidence, not knowing how. So when women, like you said, are seeing somebody else's life and it's really in their mind successful, and then they're looking at their life and thinking, "Poor me,"
Mhm.
they're kind of stuck in a victim mindset.
Yeah.
And that victim mindset will keep them stuck in that. And that's what I always like to do, is break that mindset from a victim to like more of a survivor that goes, if I don't like what I'm in,
Yeah.
I am fully empowered to do something about it.
Yeah.
And if somebody has what I want, rather than feeling like bad that they have it and I don't, use that as an inspiration to go, "Well, let me go and talk to them and find out how they did it.
Yeah.
Let me learn from that person.
Yeah,
Let me grow from
absolutely.
that person." So everyone has a choice. But like I said, we either get stuck in the victim, which is I feel stuck.
Mhm.
I feel like I can't do something. So when people come to me in that mindset, it's like I don't feel like I can. That's just very often old limiting beliefs. It
Yeah.
might just be a bit experiences that are pulling them back from the past that they've not dealt with. So if anybody is feeling a little bit like, "I wish my life was somebody else's,"
Yeah.
then it means that they don't love themselves enough. Because it's a very simple process. And it came to me last year, and this is why I ran the workshops that I ran last year, which is the process of life goes, you have to love you first.
Mhm.
So to love you, I've got to know me, and I've got to love me whoever I am and accept me and put in boundaries and treat myself respectfully. Then I'm able to love somebody else. And then if I love somebody else and I get true love, then I'll love my life. It will take care of itself.
Yeah.
But very often the world of coaching goes, look at your life, set goals, do something different. So we try and change our life and then wonder why we're still not happy. Or we might focus on having lots of relationships. I need a man, I need a woman to make me feel good. And it doesn't work because you still don't love yourself.
No,
So
exactly.
we have to go back to the beginning that goes, unless you love yourself, you will never be happy.
And how would you say, how do people, I mean, I've obviously got my ways of loving yourself,
Yeah.
be all, fitness,
Yeah,
start
absolutely.
challenging your mind and your body just with fitness. You can go to your local gym, you can do it at home workouts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, what would you say to someone that's feeling really unhappy with it, who doesn't love
Yeah,
themselves?
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
would you tell them to start doing?
So the first thing is, like I said, is understanding who you are.
Yeah.
And that's not just doing a personality profile quiz, but do it because it obviously starts to make sense. But it's actually saying, who have I become? Possibly because of experiences that I've gone through. So this is where people might have to go, actually, there's something in my past that still makes me feel bad. If I always say, if you think about your life as a book
Mm-hmm.
and you flip back through all the chapters that you've so far gone through, if any of them, I always say they're like sticky chapters, it means that there's emotions in there that keep me stuck. It could be anger, sadness, bitterness, rejection, grief.
Mm-hmm.
If there are chapters that still feel sticky, then that's what's holding you back. That's what's stopping you from loving yourself, because you're carrying baggage, weight that you don't need to.
Yeah.
If you've had a bad relationship and somebody made you feel bad about yourself and you've kept that,
Yeah.
you're going to feel bad about
Yeah.
yourself. So you have to do this tidy up work. This is what I said. I'm not a counsellor. Nothing wrong with counselling, but for me, I like people to go into their pasts quickly and come out of it quickly and move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
So I'll just say to them, right, we need to go into that chapter, rewrite it.
Mm-hmm.
Rewrite it so it's empowered. So rather than, I'm just going to use an example of, I don't know, my husband left me because, so my husband left me. I feel sad. I feel hurt. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
If I close that chapter with all of those feelings, I'm never going to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
If I can rework the end of that just goes, I'm free. We weren't meant to be. I've learned, to love myself is more important than to love him. But we close it down. Can't change it,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll say we survived it.
Yeah.
And we must have a lot of resilience and strength to get through things. That all of a sudden, that means that we've loved ourselves more. Because if you think about your book lives in your heart, if you're not carrying the weight of all those negative feelings, then you're going to have more love for yourself.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
changing your language as well towards yourself, isn't it?
Well, I always say inside all of us, you've got a coach, you've got a critic.
Mm-hmm.
All of us have, and it's which one do which one do we listen to? So, for example, I'm sure the same with you. People often say that my voice is in their head.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're
Yeah.
thinking something, they'll
Yeah.
go, "Oh, what would Suzanne say?" It's like,
Yeah.
okay. So, but we have a critic that will always doubt us. That will always go, "Am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Can I do this?" All of those enoughs. And we all have it. So there's no point saying we don't, because we do. But you need to build up the coach's voice inside your head,
Yeah.
because the coach is who you are.
Yeah.
The critic is those around you that have perhaps questioned, or you didn't get those needs met as a child
Mm-hmm.
to know that you're good enough just being you. So if you feel like you're listening to the critic, not the coach, then you need to learn how to listen to a different voice.
Right.
And the more that you listen to the coach, the quieter the critic will become. And you'll learn how to manage those thoughts when they come up. But if I'm honest with you, that's tough to do on your own.
Yeah.
And this is what I say to people, if self-help books, just reading a book worked, we'd be a happy nation.
Yeah.
There's like
Absolutely.
bazillion self-help books. It's like, if I read a fitness book and what, I lose 2 stone? Why not? I'm really annoyed that doesn't happen.
Taking action, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and sometimes you need help.
Yeah.
A bit like you.
Yeah.
If someone's really struggling with trying to get motivation or knowing what to do,
Need some accountability.
there you go.
Yeah.
And it's and that's what I said. That's why we're so good as a pack.
Mm-hmm.
We're so good in community. We're
Yeah.
so bloody. It's hard on our own.
Yeah.
And that's my bit. And sometimes if you feel like you're on your own, that's when you need to reach out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because it's hard to do life on your own.
Yeah.
We're not designed that way.
So tell me, before we wrap this up, tell me and the listeners how they could get in touch with you, or what you've got coming up this year. Yeah.
So, well, there's going to be lots of events this year. So one thing that I tried last year was getting groups of men and groups of women together.
Yeah.
And so we've got our first one actually this Saturday. We've got a retreat coming up in Mallorca later on in the year.
Amazing.
I'm going to be putting on different workshops and retreats. So I think the easiest way is I think the best thing for everybody is, first of all, work out who you are.
Yeah.
So the website is suzannedavison.co.uk.
Yeah, we can put this on the profile.
Okay. On the actual website, there's a link to the quiz.
Mm-hmm.
So do the quiz, get your family to do it, get your hubby to do it, and you'll also get a nice little PDF booklet thingy that will help explain it to you. And then if you either follow me on Instagram, because I'm always putting out little bits and pieces for people to be able to look at. But if you are struggling, and it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or a child, you've got problems in your families, don't try and do it on your own.
Yeah.
Reach out, ask for help, message me, and actually just go, I want to do it different. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
So really, I'd say probably the best thing to do is follow me on Instagram,
Yeah.
do the quiz. You'll be on my email list, and I'll keep everybody informed of what's going on as and when it comes up through the year.
Awesome.
And I just think for me, it's about, just for everybody to just take a little bit of time out for themselves. It's the beginning of a year.
Yeah.
And really go into this one going, what's right for me?
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully people can still work things out,
Yeah.
by taking on your quiz and realising who the people are around them and themselves.
Absolutely.
Suzanne, it's been awesome to have you on.
Oh,
Honestly,
thank you
it's
for
such a
having me.
pleasure. It really is. And hopefully we might even get you on again later down
Love
the
that.
line.
Love
and
that.
good luck with all your events coming up.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And I'll speak to you soon.
Lovely. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe, everybody. Give us your comments. Let us know if you've had a listen of this today. Let us know what you think. Or if you've got any questions for Suzanne, then definitely fire them across either in the comments or you can contact her directly. But thanks in the meantime for joining us, and I'll see you next time.